crisp early morning hours of July 26, 1909, a towering ocean liner glided out of the harbor at Durban, South Africa, bound for Cape Town. She was the SS Waratah, the proud flagship of the Blue Anchor Line and the crown jewel of passenger travel between Britain, South Africa, and Australia. Measuring nearly 500 feet long and weighing almost 10,000 gross tons, she was a marvel of early 20th century engineering. She possessed luxurious staterooms, state-of-the-art steam engines, and 5 watertight holds that her builders proudly claimed made her virtually unsinkable. On board were 211 souls, a mix of wealthy travelers, families, and a veteran crew commanded by Captain Joshua Edward Ilbery, a respected master mariner with over 40 years of experience on the high seas. Yet, despite her grandeur, a quiet, unsettling shadow hung over the vessel. From the moment she set sail on her maiden voyage from London months earlier, seasoned mariners and perceptive passengers noticed strange, alarming behaviors in the ship's movement. The Waratah had an unusually high superstructure, topped by heavy luxury cabins, music rooms, and promenade decks. In open waters, instead of rolling smoothly with the ocean swells and naturally recovering her balance, the ship exhibited a sluggish, unsettling list. When she tilted to one side, she stayed there for dangerously long periods before slowly, painfully righting herself, a classic sign of a vessel that was top-heavy, lacking sufficient stability at her waterline. During the leg of the journey from Australia to South Africa, a passenger named Claude Sawyer, an experienced traveler and engineer, became so terrified by the ship's unnatural rolling that he made a drastic decision. He claimed to have experienced a vivid, recurring nightmare 3 nights in a row, in which a ghostly knight clad in blood-soaked armor rose from the waves, warning him that the Waratah was doomed to sink. Driven by an overwhelming sense of dread and his own technical observations of the ship's dangerous instability, Sawyer disembarked at Durban, giving up his ticket to Cape Town and desperately trying to convince others to leave the vessel with him. His warnings were brushed off as superstitious nonsense. On the evening of July 27th, the Waratah was steaming south along the treacherous wild coast of South Africa, a region notorious for its sudden, violent rogue waves and powerful ocean currents. Around 6 o'clock that evening, she encountered a smaller steamship, the SS Clan McIntyre. The weather was overcast and the sea was choppy, but conditions were far from extreme. Using flashing signal lamps, the 2 vessels exchanged pleasantries across the dark water, confirming their identities and destinations. The Waratah, traveling at a faster pace, gradually overtook the Clan McIntyre and pulled ahead into the gloom. By 6 the following morning, the Clan McIntyre's crew could still see the faint, rhythmic glow of the Waratah's smoke plumes on the southern horizon. Then, around mid-morning on July 28th, a fierce, sudden gale swept across the region, bringing heavy seas and blinding rain. When the storm cleared hours later, the ocean was entirely empty. The SS Waratah was due to dock in Cape Town on July 29th, but as the hours turned into days, the port authorities grew increasingly anxious. The ship had failed to arrive. Initially, company officials assumed she had simply suffered a mechanical breakdown, such as a broken propeller shaft or steering gear, and was drifting safely out to sea. But as a full week passed without a single word or sighting, panic erupted across the British Empire. What followed was the largest and most desperate maritime search operation the Southern Hemisphere had ever seen. The British Royal Navy deployed warships to crisscross the waters off the South African coast, while the Blue Anchor Line chartered fast ocean tugs to scan every reef, bay, and island for hundreds of miles. Australian and South African authorities scoured thousands of square miles of ocean, searching for a floating lifeboat, a wooden deck chair, a life ring, or an oil slick. But they found nothing. A vessel as massive as a football field, carrying over 200 people and thousands of tons of cargo, had vanished into thin air without leaving a single trace of evidence. For months, rumors and false hopes tormented the families of the victims. Dispatches claimed that distant steamships had spotted drifting smoke on the horizon, or that indigenous villagers along the wild coast had seen a dying liner wallowing in the surf. Every lead was investigated, and every single one proved to be a heartbreaking dead end. By the end of 1909, the Waratah was officially declared lost with all hands, taking her 211 passengers and crew into a silent, watery grave. The tragedy forced the British Board of Trade to launch a massive, highly publicized official inquiry in London to answer an impossible question. How could a modern, state-of-the-art flagship disappear completely in moderate weather without leaving a scrap of wreckage or a single survivor? The inquiry called dozens of naval architects, former passengers, and maritime experts to testify, and the evidence quickly pointed toward a fatal flaw in the ship's physical design and cargo distribution. Architectural analysis revealed that the Waratah suffered from a severe lack of metacentric height, the physical calculation that governs how a ship rights itself after being tilted by wind or waves. Her top-heavy passenger decks, combined with a heavy cargo of lead ore and wool loaded lower down, may have created a precarious, fragile balance. Naval experts concluded that during the sudden storm on July 28th, the vessel was likely hit by a massive, unexpected rogue wave, a giant wall of water generated by the collision of the powerful Agulhas current and opposing Antarctic gales. If a rogue wave struck the unstable Waratah broadside, her top-heavy frame would have keeled over past her point of recovery, capsizing completely within seconds and trapping everyone inside before a single lifeboat could be launched. However, the reason the disappearance caused such immense global terror and outrage was not just the potential design flaw. It was the profound, terrifying silence that surrounded her loss. The SS Waratah was a brand-new premier passenger liner, yet she was built without a wireless telegraph system. In 1909, wireless radio technology developed by Guglielmo Marconi was rapidly emerging, but it was still considered an expensive, non-essential luxury for commercial shipping companies rather than a basic safety requirement. Had the Waratah possessed a wireless radio, her operator could have sent a distress signal within seconds of emergency, giving her precise coordinates and allowing rescue ships to race to the scene to save survivors floating in the water. The international outcry over the vanishing of the Titanic of the South shattered the maritime industry's dangerous complacency surrounding radio communication. Public pressure mounted swiftly across Britain, Australia, and the United States. Governments and naval authorities realized that allowing ocean liners carrying hundreds of lives to roam the open seas without wireless telegraphy was a form of criminal negligence. The tragedy of the Waratah became a major driving force that pushed international maritime boards toward drafting sweeping new safety legislation. Within a few short years of the disaster, major maritime nations began enacting strict laws mandating that all large ocean-going passenger ships must be fitted with wireless telegraph equipment and staffed by trained radio operators. This revolutionary regulatory shift transformed ocean safety forever. Just a short time later, when the RMS Republic collided with another ship in a dense fog, her wireless operator sent out a distress call that saved over 700 lives. And when the RMS Titanic struck an iceberg in 1912, it was the mandatory wireless distress signals, pioneered in the tragic wake of the Waratah, that summoned the RMS Carpathia to rescue over 700 freezing survivors from the North Atlantic. Over a century later, the physical mystery of the SS Waratah continues to intrigue marine scientists, oceanographers, and shipwreck hunters. Advanced underwater expeditions utilizing modern side-scan sonar and deep-sea submersibles have spent decades mapping the violent seabed off the South African coast, attempting to locate her rusted hull. While several wreckages have been discovered over the years, each one turned out to be an older merchant vessel or a sunken military ship, leaving the Waratah's exact resting place an unsolved cold case buried beneath thousands of feet of water. The story of the SS Waratah remains one of the most compelling maritime mysteries in human history, a chilling testament to the unforgiving power of the ocean and the hubris of early industrial engineering. She was a giant ship that vanished into total oblivion, but the lessons learned from her loss rewrote the rules of global communication, establishing the modern distress network that has saved countless thousands of lives on the high seas ever since.